Okay, so let's get started. Hello, everyone. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Jeff Poulos. I'm a career advisor here at the College of Humanities and Social Sciences. Today, we're going to talk about how to network using social media. I hope you learned something new today. I think it's going to be pretty engaging. I tried to make this as engaging as possible. And of course, at the end, there will be some time for some questions, some Q&A. So hang tight and we will take it from there. Okay. My slide wants to work here. Okay, there we go. Sorry. Following this webinar, you'll understand how to. I like to just set the groundwork and the foundation for everyone. Learn strategies and techniques for utilizing social media to expand one's professional network. So we're going to take a little dive into certain social media kind of tools that are out there and how they are using job search features for us as users, which is pretty interesting. And you'll see LinkedIn is one of them, right? LinkedIn, I'm sure you've all heard of, is a big networking tool. We're going to get into that. Understand the importance of informational interviewing while using social media. Again, right, being intentional as to who we connect with, I think is really important. And then we're going to walk through some examples of how you can make those connections to grow your network, which is really important. So strap in, and again, hopefully this is engaging and worthwhile. I always like to start off with some data just to set the tone here and the foundation. 92%, pretty wild. So studies have shown that 92% of companies are using social media for hiring, and that 3 out of 4 hiring managers will check a candidate's social profiles. So I like to start off with this just to dispel the rumor that, or the myth, I should say, that employers are not checking social media and presence. They definitely are. It could be used as a bias against you, so wherever you are on your career and professional development journey, I always recommend before you submit, you apply to things, check out what's going on in your own personal profile, right? Think of it as if you were to go to, let's say you're a homeowner, right? Or you're a realtor. Before you're going to show the house and put the house on the market, you want to make sure that the house is cleaned up, it's looking nice, it's being shown off to the best of its ability. And same goes for you when we're job searching and looking out there. You want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward and everything is cleaned up. So it's definitely being checked out when you're searching for internships, jobs, and all that good stuff. This was interesting, actually. I know this is a little bit ago, but still relevant. 2016, Lou Adler, he's a big LinkedIn kind of influencer and user and kind of a career thought leader, revealed that 85% of all jobs are filled via networking. Massive. I still will say it till this day, and I'll always continue to say this, even before the pandemic. Networking remains to be the #1 job search tool. I cannot stress that enough. So if you are 1 or 2 degrees away or 3 from folks, whether it's in your personal life, peers, friends of friends that are in a field that you're interested in, make that conversation with them, connect with them. There's always something to be learned, and you kind of bring them into your inner circle when you make that conversation and network, because you never know where that road and path is going to lead. So right, we talked about some brief data points just to kind of set the foundation and the tone for today, right? Importance, it's, A, our social media is definitely being checked, and B, networking is huge. But here are some general job searching tips 101, if you will, right? Some basic tips. Like I said, want to get everything clean and keep your image professional and consistent, right? That whole idea, like I said, you want to check the house before you kind of put it on the market. Make your accounts private, right? A lot of people I know out there, they have Instagrams that are public. Be very cautious and wary about that. Whatever you put out there, it could be used in some sort of way against you throughout the job, application process. So you want to make sure everything is private. And that you're having that all checked out. You also want to delete any inappropriate posts, right? If you're thinking it's inappropriate, most likely it is inappropriate. That's all I'm going to leave it at there. I'm not here to define what is and what isn't. But if you think something is a flag, it poses a threat, could be used against you, not painting you in the best light, you definitely want to remove it. You also want to deactivate old accounts, right? If you're not using it, and there's been some social media things that have come and gone and have been deleted or gobbled up by Facebook and bought out. Get rid of it, right? You only want to be intentional about the social media accounts that you're going to be using. Use your real name, right? That's branded to you. I think that's really important. If you're going to be kind of operating under a private name, I would make it something totally different. Something that's not going to be, any sort of movie reference or any sort of show reference or things like that. So you definitely want to be true to yourself, your authentic self, right? Because again, it's almost like social media is a different profile, and you want to make sure that your profile on there is consistent with who you are and what you can bring to the table when it comes to meeting an employer, an organization, things like that. Lastly, don't have an account on everything. I think that's a really big trap that a lot of students, get into, and we've all gotten into. I shouldn't just say students. I've been there myself. You want to be definitely intentional about what you are on, and asking yourself, why am I on here? Right? It could be for leisure, and I get that, but you want to be professional about it too, and intentional. Some advanced tips real quick. Certain social media outlets out there, one in particular like LinkedIn, you can edit your handle or URL and brand it to your name, which is pretty cool. So that further kind of enhances your brand. Be intentional about what you're posting and sharing, right? If you want to share industry related news, some motivational quotes, maybe articles, that's always good to show off and display that, I'm using this in a professional manner. And then you can follow inspiring people too, and look at the work that they're doing at particular companies or just companies in general that you're, looking to learn more about. So hopefully this isn't new news and knowledge to you, but kind of just to give you the basics and advanced tips here. So the three big outlets we're going to really talk about today, and kind of the mega ones that are out there, are Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And really how each one of these you could be using to not only just network and connect with people, but maybe to look for jobs, to expand your network, but also learn about where people have gone in a particular career or industry. What are their career trajectories? So, and there's some pros and cons to them, and what could be good and what could be bad. And I'll provide some, recommendations and things like that throughout the way. But these are some big three that I've seen used in different kind of multitudes and areas, when it comes to networking. Facebook, right? You may not think it. Facebook actually, believe it or not, does have a job search feature. Pretty scary. I'm not too sure if many of you knew that. Facebook, I've used before just for personal leisure and to kind of keep in touch, with family that are distant, not close by. But what you can do in Facebook in regards to the job search, mechanisms here is you can like and follow companies you're interested in. Again, if you're going to be using this for job search stuff, you want to consider checking your own profile settings. That includes cleaning up anything you post on there, photos, videos, keeping it private, things like that. And I'll talk about that in a little bit as to why you want to check your profile settings in the next slide, which is interesting. You can join groups. This would be probably my top point that I would say if you're going to use Facebook for. There's a lot of groups out there similar to, LinkedIn has groups as well that you can network with other folks to learn about particular industries, see what's going on, but also maybe connect just not with people in industries, but people that are doing work maybe geographically close by to you, what's going on in your area and how you can connect with those folks to learn more about them and so on and so forth. This is another biggie. This is at your own risk. Point 4 here on the slide. Consider letting your friends know you're searching. I would only do this at your own risk. Again, depending on your privacy settings and how your profile is set up. In the event you are looking for particular internship jobs, things like that, you can make a status, as we all know, right? You know, and say that you're interested in learning more about a particular, industry, or you're looking to search for jobs. But um, maybe on the flip side, not that you're open to searching, but maybe you're open to learning more about a particular area or career, and you want to see who in your network, in your Facebook network, could help you, right? So that's something to think about. And then Facebook actually has a job search feature and category, which is pretty wild. Looks kind of like Indeed-ish in a way. Uh, Found it a little scary, to be honest with everyone. I'm not too sure what is being used or shared on there, but there's 5 job types with 23 categories that I found that you can actually use to look for jobs that companies are posting via Facebook. And the scary part, which is, I'm going to get to this next slide here. And also, by the way, if you haven't sorry, in that image, Montclair State University's Center for Career Services also is on Facebook if you want to follow them, and on Instagram as well. But the scary part is, or maybe it's on the next slide, my apologies, is as you will be using your profile that you set up on Facebook to apply for these jobs. So again, there's no opportunity, I don't recommend this, but there's no opportunity to attach a resume, a cover letter, some sort of note. It's just going to plug data that is used and being stored on your profile on Facebook to apply for this job. So maybe not the best practice, right? However, as we can see here on this slide, the groups, I think, are really good practice for networking, right? So I just took a screenshot here of certain, groups that are on Facebook in the North Jersey area that cast a really wide net, depending on what you consider North Jersey, right? But Jobs in NJ, if you want to follow and join that group, those are jobs that are posted in the state of New Jersey. Northern New Jersey Jobs, has a pretty big membership. North Jersey Jobs. There's some private groups too, right? A lot of these groups are going to ask you, does the screenshot along the right, why are you looking to join? Are you an employer? Your reasoning, things like that. They'll probably lay out a list of rules that you need to follow in order to post in the group. So keep that in mind. And at any point, if someone says or thinks that your comments are inappropriate, you probably would be booted from the group. So you want to be kind of respectful of the rules that are set in place for these groups on Facebook. So could be a great way to network though. Again, I see it as through a learning aspect. The more you kind of learn and see who's out there and what they're doing, the more you can kind of maybe expand your network and horizon for a particular industry and career. So yes, this is where I was getting to with the job search function of Facebook, right? So here are your categories, the job type, like I said earlier, there's 5 of them, right? Full-time, part-time, internship, volunteer, and contract. That's pretty standard and par for the course with any sort of online job portal system. You can change the location. You can set the radius further than 30 miles. I think the furthest you can go is 100. And then you have a bunch of different categories that you can see on the screen here. And I don't think I even fit all of them with the screenshot just because I couldn't do it. But you can select certain categories, of what you're looking for. But again, I would proceed with caution. If you're going to use this, I'm not saying not to, but it's going to use your current profile to apply for those jobs. There's no opportunity to really follow up with whoever's posting these positions. We don't know where it's going, how it's being vetted, if there's any opportunity to really attach a resume and any other supplemental documents. So absolutely proceed with caution if you're going to be using this. So the conclusion with Facebook, 3 points. Use the job board to locate company pages, right? That's a win-win there. Because if the company has a page on Facebook, most likely that page is going to connect to the company's primary website. Keep that in mind. Always go to the source, right? See the company's social media presence, right? How are they leveraging social media? Maybe you can use that as intel for how they possibly are being recognized in social media. Maybe they got a certain award in the last couple months, things like that. And really, you may want to think about only using Facebook for leisure, right? Or vice versa, only for business. It gets really, really murky when you're going to be using it for both. I don't recommend it, right? And as we all know, certain things connect to other things. So for example, Facebook connects to your Instagram and vice versa, or you can connect, I should say, your Instagram to your Facebook profile. So, it's a really, really fine and delicate line, and employers are checking it out. They want to see what's going on out there, what you're sharing. I think there's an awareness piece now more than ever when it comes time to hiring someone and bringing them in to a company so that they fit in with the culture and the environment and the atmosphere. So you definitely want to make sure if you're questioning something that's on there, most likely, that's a sign that you definitely want to, get rid of it, remove it, delete it, so on and so forth. So now pivoting to Twitter, right? Which maybe most of us among here have it. Awesome. I think Twitter's great. Again, it's great for certain aspects though, for this kind of topic that we're talking about, which I'll get into in a moment. So how to have your finger on the pulse, right? Twitter is awesome. And as we see, MSU Career Serve has a Twitter account. It's pretty sweet. Who should you follow, right? So I think Twitter is good to kind of do that investigative work to gain some insight as to who's posting what's going on out there. One, job search experts, right? There may be people that have a particular, handle on a certain industry in the line of work that you want to follow, that they're sharing, what you should or shouldn't be doing. Company job accounts, right? If you have end goals, or, your main goals, I should say, are to work at specific companies, follow them, see what they're doing, what are they resharing, who are they following, right? If you want to take it a step further, right? That's kind of like some inception action there. So you definitely, want to ensure that you have your finger on the pulse. uh, Particular major players in the industry, um, an example there, right? If anyone watches Shark Tank, right? Entrepreneurial spirit, maybe you want to follow those folks who have their certain pulse as to what's going on in a particular field or industry. People at your dream companies, those top execs, right? Managers at particular companies, so on and so forth. And then you can also on Twitter, which if many or some of you may or may not know about, you can create a list of people that you follow as well, which is pretty cool. So again, it's really good for casting the widest net, which is pretty cool. And hang tight, I do see some questions coming in and some chats. I will promise I'll get to it. I just want to keep motoring along so we have some time at the end. Also, and I didn't even mention this in the slide before, you can follow job portal sites on Twitter, right? Massive. Indeed, as we all know, is the leading job portal site that's out there. Cast the widest net, right? Another one is Career Builder. Another one, if you're interested in federal government related jobs, government jobs, that's connected to usajobs.gov. That's a massive site. The Muse is a really great career services resource site that I definitely recommend. They have cover letter templates, resume templates, what you should be doing. If you want to connect with a career coach on there, that's great. JobScan as well, another free resource to you. It's a software system that scans your resume and could pin it against the job to see if you're a good fit. JobScan's a tremendous resource. Definitely check that out. Undercover Recruiter. This is someone that pretty much will give you the ins and outs for certain companies. Kind of like a Glassdoor, right? I'm sure you've all heard of Glassdoor. That's probably one that I even should have thrown on the screen here. Giving you an insight as to someone that worked or is working at the company, how's their culture, their leadership, things like that. So, there's definitely ways here on Twitter that you can kind of leverage to see what's going on. So this is cool. On Twitter, you can actually create a list. So hypothetically, I'm a big car enthusiast. I love Mustangs. In case I wanted to only see what is going on out there with Mustangs and Mustang talk, I can create a list and follow certain accounts. And this way, that list only populates folks that are posting things about Mustangs. So things to keep in mind there and how to leverage Twitter as well. Obviously, you can bookmark a tweet, right? This is pretty standard for any sort of social media platform. bookmark Instagram posts, in case you want to circle back on something, right? That's always a good kind of tool to utilize for Twitter. Some honorable mentions with Twitter. Definitely, I have read and heard that if you're using it, you want to incorporate keywords into your bio, keywords that are specific to a possible industry you're thinking about. Use hashtags, right? Hashtags are actual job search functions too. So, I mean, if you listed, if you searched for and clicked the hashtag jobs, I mean, you're going to get everything that's been posted about, jobs. So it's a lot to vet, though. It's a lot to go through. So that being said, there's a really cool function on Twitter called a tweet deck. It used to be separate from Twitter. Then it merged with Twitter in like the early 2000s when it just was like really taken off. That you can create decks and hashtags based off of that one hashtag that you can check momentarily. So think of it as multiple news feeds in a way just for that hashtag, which is pretty cool. Instead of keeping it all in one scroll, it separates it out into different columns. So, if you're interested in all about the Twitter and social media thing, hop on TweetDeck. It's pretty cool. Again, you can follow certain hashtags and separate it out so that you aren't losing your mind in a way, following everything in one continuous endless scroll. It's pretty cool. And lastly, with Twitter, don't over interact, right? You don't want to be tweeting and posting something every 2 seconds. I think you want to be intentional about what you retweet, who you engage with. Similar to networking, right? We don't want to just be networking and messaging people, out the wazoo. We want to be intentional as to who we connect with. Do your research about that particular person, look them up, see what's going on. But you never want to over interact, but it's good to have your finger on the pulse as to seeing what's going on out there. So I believe that's it for Twitter. Yes. And lastly, the last of the big three that we'll talk about, and my favorite and really the best one, I think, out of all these three is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is massive for both networking and storing your content somewhere digitally on your resume. But the basics, right? Get your profile up to speed. If you don't have a LinkedIn, I'm not here to say you got to go home right now immediately or wherever you're at after this webinar and create a LinkedIn. It's like planting a plant. Think of it that way. You plant the seed little by little, you watch it grow, you give it nutrients, put it in the sun. Maybe you want to talk to it. I mean, it's going a little overboard, right? But like LinkedIn, a good profile takes time. You got to build it up. It's not going to happen overnight. You do little by little, you create connections. The more connections you make and hashtags you follow, the more capabilities are opened to you on LinkedIn. Free features, that is. So definitely want to follow certain hashtags that are, specific to your particular industry that you're interested in. Come up with a plan. Maybe, this is teach their own, but maybe you want to connect with 2 to 3 people in your industry a week, 2 to 3 people a month. Maybe you want to have 1 conversation a month or 2 conversations a month with someone that's in an industry or someone that maybe is a recent graduate that's earned a degree that you are in pursuit of currently, right? And there's ways that LinkedIn can show us where graduates from Montclair have gone, alumni, and what they studied and what companies they're working at, which is pretty cool. Connect with people that's the best way to really start growing your network, or reconnect, right? Depending where you are, maybe it's someone you haven't spoken to in a while. Use it as an opportunity to reconnect with that person, right? Whatever you do though, and I'll talk about this in a few moments, you don't want to just get click happy and, like I said earlier, start firing out connections. You want to be intentional, craft a note, attach it, this way, and LinkedIn gives you that capability to do that. When you request to connect, you can add a note. You could say, hey, I see that you have experience in X and I want to learn more about it. I see that you're a current or you're a recent graduate with a psychology degree. I want to learn more about what it is that you did with that degree. The more you make it personal, my point being, the more likely that person is to, reply. right? There's no guarantee that they will, but I think if you personalize the note, there's more likelihood that they do. And then grow your network and watch it grow, right? Similar to the plant metaphor, right? You feed it, you take care of it, you keep up with those connections, right? Like a plant, you keep up with, you know, planting and kind of taking care of it. The more it's going to grow and the more it's going to thrive, really. And that's the point about networking is you want it to thrive. It's a constant working process. It's not a one and done thing. So LinkedIn, just that was the basics. The advanced, up to you, right? Similar to the Facebook thing that I said earlier. If you want to let your, folks know that you're looking for a gig or looking for a job, you can keep your search under or on the radar. You decide. LinkedIn has that capability that you can make your profile visible to certain recruiters or not. Something to keep in mind. You can create job agents or alerts for yourself in the event that you're looking for a particular specific kind of job title. Every time a job is posted within the alert that you create, you'll get notified of it, whether if you want to get notified just via the app or both the app and possible email. Things to keep in mind. You can connect with people you don't know, right? That's always, something to keep in mind, but you also, roll the dice there because you run the risk of maybe them not reaching back out or replying. So I always recommend first, leveraging your alumni network, right? Going to Montclair State University, you have that common denominator. They're considered warm connections. And that being said, tap into your own connections, right? Set up those informational interviewing, which that's a technique we're going to talk about in a few moments before we wrap up. And we'll take it from there. So this is what I was talking about earlier, excuse me, in regards to your privacy settings. You can let recruiters know if you are open to opportunities or not. This would be in the privacy settings. You'd see a drop down, that says job seeking preferences. You can change it to yes, to no. You can actually signal, which is pretty wild, to recruiters that you created job alerts for particular companies that you're interested in, those companies that the recruiters work for. It's pretty wild. You can also, when you click apply to a job, or even if you click on a job, you can indicate if you want your profile shared, which is pretty wild too. This is good. I only recommend though, if you're going to do this, be intentional, right? Be aware of what you're doing and who your audience is, but you always in the end want to do your due diligence and apply to the job directly through the employer website. Okay, so keep that in mind there. Here's an example of some job agents, right? Some common job titles. Mid-level program manager tends to be a job title that's very mid-level. Entry level is recruitment coordinator. Anything with the word assistant, anything with the word coordinator. And with LinkedIn, you can get it set up via daily notification, as you can see with point 1, or if you want to specifically, I want to get an email and a notification about it, I can get it set up that way too, which is pretty cool. Okay. Yes, networking, it is kind of a big deal, like Ron Burgundy is saying. So how do we network, right? We network through this technique called informational interviewing, the what and the why, right? Informational interviewing is, you're not really, think of it as you're not interviewing, you're actually being the interviewer, okay? You're being intentional as to who you want to connect with. You did your research about them, what jobs they've had, their career trajectory, and then you request to make that connection with them, right? So making connections, seeking leads and information regarding a particular industry, career path, or employer by talking to people you know or may not know, or people you've been referred to, is what informational interviewing is about, right? And like I said earlier, networking remains to be the #1 job search tool. So you definitely want to be intentional, with this, and think of it as someone that you're bringing into your inner circle. You never know where it's going to lead, right? Because those members of your network that you connect with can act as advocates for you or for maybe a prospective employer one day, right? So definitely informational interviewing is great. And I also think it's great for not just making those connections and reaching out to people, but you can practice your own interviewing skills and techniques, when you are making those connections. So it's an opportunity for you to talk about yourself as well as ask questions to the person you want to interact with. So some steps for successful informational interviewing. Maybe right now you're like, Jeff, I have no idea where to start. I'm not too sure what you're talking about. I hope this kind of sheds some light and some clarity on the issue here. Here are some steps that I would outline for you, right? It doesn't have to be just driven through LinkedIn, but we're using LinkedIn as this example. Develop a list of people. Maybe some are people within your own personal network, your colleagues, professors you've had or haven't had. That's a really good go-to, kind of network to tap into right there. A lot of the professors at MSU, keep in mind, have their curricular vitae, which is fancy for a resume, published on the website. It's a very long resume that shows everything they've done, kind of, and accomplishments. Maybe look that up. See if their interests on their resume there align with your own interests, right? And take note on it. And then reach out and make that connection. And we're going to talk about that in the next slide, what the message for that could be. So you have an example. So develop a list of people. Maybe some of them are within your network or alumni from Montclair State University on LinkedIn. Reach out and make the appointment, right? After you do your research, make the appointment. Maybe it's a phone call, maybe it's a Zoom appointment. And we're going to talk about the message there in a little bit. Develop questions, right? So the researching I've noticed here, you can either be in point 2 or 3, but look them up, read about them, make questions that you think are going to help you kind of understand where you are in your career and professional development journey, right? That's what it's all about. It's the idea of giving yourself an opportunity to learn more about a field, what you like about it, what you don't like. Like any good interview, you want to be professional, you want to dress appropriate, especially if you're going to be connecting with them via video, right? First impression is always key. Um, you definitely want to flatter your interviewee without being a sycophant. It's the word of the day. I'll encourage you to look it up. You know, you want to highlight the success in their career, right? You don't want to kind of blow smoke in a way towards their face, metaphorically speaking, but you want to look them up and be genuine, be authentic about your connection, right? So, you don't want to be doing and networking just for the sake of networking. You want to see it as, a way that you're going to develop yourself and gain some sort of insight and knowledge from that conversation. If it's appropriate, step 6, totally up to you. If you want to share where you are in your own personal journey, if that comes up as a topic. This is more applicable once you're maybe further along in a career that you're looking to gain insight and knowledge into. You can ask for names, maybe for people that are working at a particular company. Again, this is all through the lens of if the conversation lends itself for this opportunity. So I'm not saying you have to do 0.6 and 7, but it depends on how the conversation goes. Point 8 and 9, I definitely would recommend always doing. You want to thank that person for their time. And this is just a good form of habit to do in any sort of interview process. Send up a follow-up note. When to send the follow-up note, 24 to 48 hours, I always say, is a good way to think about it. And take advantage of any referrals you receive. Maybe you get a referral out of it for a particular gig or job. You definitely want to see it through. We all have expectations for how things go, but I really encourage you all when it comes time to making these networking and connections to break down and leave those expectations behind and really go into it with an open mind. The more you're open, the more you're going to really gain and absorb from these types of conversations. So some LinkedIn networking ideas, right? Where to start? This connects to that point. Start on LinkedIn. If you have one, awesome. You're more than half the battle there is done. Go to Montclair State University's page. You can do this with any sort of alma mater, or previous school you've maybe been to or looking to go into. It's public knowledge. I believe that 90,000 number is more likely now at 92. But if you go to Montclair's page, there's an alumni tab along the left side. I will say this is better to do on a computer or laptop, not on your phone. You may be able to see on your phone, but I've tried it before and it's come out a little wonky. But if you do it on a laptop, computer, tablet, you will see it will break down as to, oh, sorry, 93 alum, it is up top. Yeah, I think it's actually more than 93. That's what I was looking at. But sorry, it'll break down where they live, where they work, but what they do and what they studied. Okay. This is massive. This is all free. You don't have to pay for this feature at all on LinkedIn. I encourage students to do this wherever you are on your career and professional development journey. You could see as to who is on LinkedIn, where are they going with a particular degree, what are they studying, what are they doing, and look someone up and have that conversation. Get it going, right? So again, how I got here, Montclair State University, search it up top on LinkedIn, click it, go to the alumni tab. When you click the alumni tab, these other 4 tabs open up that says where they live, where they work, what they do, and what they studied. And when you click them, it's going to further filter it out, which is pretty wild. And it'll say, okay, 7,454 people are psych majors on LinkedIn. What are they doing? Where are they? And it'll say, okay, here are the companies that they're at. So it's really, really cool tool, and you can fall in a deep rabbit hole here. So in a good way, a little overwhelming. I get it. I empathize and I understand, but definitely every now and then, really good temperature check and tool to check out to see where people are going with your degree, which, is valuable, right? There's a lot of value in that research. So you may be asking, Jeff, how do I send a message to make that informational connection? I know it's on the tip of your tongues. Probably it's not, but here's an example, right? A sample connection message. And I'm using our leader and director, Nadine Verna, as an example here, as if I was writing to her to learn more about her higher education background and working with students. So my name is, let's just say Jeff Poulos. I'm interested in learning more about your higher education background, in particular your experience in career services and your work with liberal arts and social sciences students at MSU. Right? That's just to dissect that sentence. My name, that's a good go-to. Definitely want to say that. Why am I interested? What am I interested in? A specific point of reference to that interest, career services, and mentioning an employer, right? Their current role. Second sentence, I'm currently looking to pursue a graduate degree in higher education and student affairs. I was wondering if you had any tips for seeking a program which will best prepare me for a position in career services. Okay, this was more through a lens as to looking into some graduate research as well, which maybe many of you among the group here are one day going to be looking to gain another degree to do a certain line of work because that line of work requires a graduate degree, right? So, but maybe there's different ways as to how people got into that line of work, and you want to learn more of what other degrees are out there. That's a good networking tip and tool to use too in that regard. So it's not just for jobs. It could just be for learning more about a particular graduate program on how to network, right? Thank you so much for your time. Looking forward to connecting with you soon. Sincerely, Jeff. You do have a certain amount of characters if you're going to be utilizing this kind of structure and approach on LinkedIn. Just keep that in mind. So it may have to be even shorter than this. And there's ways that you can chop it out. You don't have to say the sincerely part. You can cut some corners there in a good way. But yeah, you roll the dice, everyone. Right? You may never hear from that person ever. I would be intentional about who you connect with. You want to connect with people that have a photo. You may see people on LinkedIn that don't have photos. I call them ghosts, right? Ghosting is a thing. Ghosting doesn't just happen in the dating world, everyone. Ghosting happens in careers as well, but be intentional. People that have a photo, I think, are more likely to be using LinkedIn. They're on there. You can actually see, how active they've been too when you look at their profile, which is pretty wild. So yeah, hopefully that helps. And with that, I believe we are at the conclusion of, nope, I had one more quote, sorry, but we're at the conclusion now after this. Really, really good quote that I just wanted to throw in here, and then we'll wrap up and take some questions. The true value of networking does not come from how many people we can meet, but rather how many people we can introduce to others, right? And that's, if anything, to get out of today. I mean, I know we talked about a lot, and I was trying to condense it here and then not go too long, but we're all here to help one another, especially with the current state of affairs, right? Everyone has a story as to how they're connected, have been affected, have been impacted. Uh, but networking, and when you cultivate that energy and you put that good energy out there and you're intentional about who you're meeting and connecting with to have those conversations, um, you're going to get good positive results back. And everyone is doing it. I know some people are scared and shy and, you know, they're not used to it, but I'm here to say, really, you got to dispel and let go of that, because networking is what could simply separate you from someone else when it comes time to an application process, and could kind of put you higher on the pile, right? So definitely this is a good quote to kind of wrap up on. So that being said, let me just stop the recording. So we are done here. Thank you for attending. And then I will take your questions.